Let's start with the basics. Tell me about this plan, these proposals that are on the ballot here in St. Landry.
Okay. First of all, good evening. Our plans, what we want to do in St. Landry Parish is one, to make sure that we can improve the quality of education for every citizen in St. Landry Parish. We have two proposals that are on the ballot, one of which is for capital improvements. That capital improvement plan will be based over 20 years. It would raise $99 million over the course of the 20-year bond. It is not renewable after it expires. The second proposal is for salaries. It would generate approximately $7.5 million each year over the course of 10 years, and that is renewable if the people so choose to. So we have those two particular bond proposals. The salary is for all salaries in St. Landry, all employees in St. Landry Parish.
So why are these necessary?
They're critically necessary to improve education. When we look at our facilities, we have approximately 37 facilities in St. Landry Parish in particular. Of those 37 facilities, most of them are in disarray in terms of the buildings themselves, excluding our newer buildings that we have in the parish. And what I mean by that is this. When you look at, I'm going to use Opelousas as an example. The newest building in Opelousas proper was built in 1962. That is the newest building. And then when you look throughout the parish, we have buildings that children are attending school in that have been built in 1918, 1921, and some that are over 100 years of age, depending on the school, because they were built in phases. So many of our buildings are very old, and we need to be able to address those buildings. When we did the facility assessment study, they indicated that most buildings should be looked at in terms of renovations or other cost cutting measures that we should look at with our facilities up to about 45 years. Our average age of a building, when we look at it collective, is about 60 years of age. So our newest building in St. Landry Parish is 27 years old, North Central, Beauchamp, and Northwest High School. Those are our newest whole buildings. We've built pieces and parts of buildings, but one complete building, 27 years of age.
And the second proposal on the ballot deals with raises, as you mentioned, for all employees in the parish. Why is that necessary?
Well, that's critically necessary. One, retention of employees that we currently have on staff. And the second component of it is to be able to not only retain but attract new employees to St. Landry Parish. I have full confidence in all employees that we have in St. Landry Parish. They're doing an excellent job with the resources that they have, but we need to be able to provide more to them. You know, when this tax passes, one thing that many people forget is that through the Louisiana Department of Education, we did we did a request through them, and that request showed that we'll get an additional $5 million more in MFP dollars annually because of our local effort. So it's critically, not only are we supporting our teachers and our students and all of our employees through both this capital improvement and salaries, but we also will support ourselves with this. So that's a critical component of that.
So this increase in salary equals $3,000 per employee?
That's $3,000 per employee. It's for teachers in particular. Support employees will receive $2,000. And this is annually over the course of the bond, which will last for at least 10 years, and then it'll be up for renewal. So therefore, again, teachers will receive $3,000, support employees, cafeteria workers, clerks, secretaries, etc., receive $2,000.
Is that a one-time payment, or is that broken up by paycheck?
That would be broken up over the course of 12 months, excuse me. During the course of the 1 year employment.
Okay.
So, but it's over the course of 10 years. So it's just not a one-time thing. This is 10-year span.
Okay. So they're getting, just to make sure we're clear, they're getting it's $3,000 in total, but that will be spread out over their paychecks for 12 months
over the fiscal year, over the course of 10 years. Correct.
Okay. These proposals, just over 11 mils for one, just over 12 for the other. Break that down in dollar amount, what that means to your average homeowner in this parish. Let's take a $100,000 home.
Yes.
What does that break down to in dollar amount?
Well, for a homeowner that has a home that's approximately $100,000, or land for that, and it has an assessed value of approximately $100,000, I'll give it to you in terms of days, months, and years annually. That will cost you about 16 cents a day for the average voter that has a home that's $100,000. On a monthly basis, it'd be about $5 to support both initiatives, both propositions. And on an annual basis, they will be paying an additional $60 annually for a person that owns a home or that is assessed at $100,000.
Okay. So 16 cents a day, $5 a month, $60 a year.
Correct.
On a $100,000 home.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about state rankings. Where does education stand here in St. Landry Parish?
Well, I'm going to look at it in two components.
Okay.
When we look at it in terms of how we're assessed, and we look at the millage rate, and then I'll talk the academic component of it. When we look at how we're assessed, we are currently paid in terms of millage 20.52 mills in St. Landry Parish. Of that 20.52, we are ranked number 64 out of 69 school districts in terms of, we're at the bottom. In some reporting, we're number 66. So it doesn't get better, it gets worse. So when we look at that, we just don't pay. The average millage rate is approximately 45 mills throughout the state of Louisiana. The high is in Zachary at 78 mills. The low is in Terrebonne Parish at 9 mills. And the reason why it's 9 mills there because they have gas, oil, and industry there, so they don't assess as much. When you look at it in terms of academic performance, we're at the bottom quarter of the 69 school districts. So we're not struggling, but we could be better. We're a C school district, but we want to be a B, and hopefully in the future we'll be an A. So we want to be able to provide for our students and teachers proper resource, technology, so that we can compete with neighboring parishes and compete throughout the state of Louisiana.
So for the facilities component, is a new classroom going to be what's going to take the quality of education in this parish to another level? Or is it a matter of what the children are sitting in their desk and learning day in and day out? So people are voting on something that's going to change the structure, the buildings that they go into, but is that going to equate an improvement in quality education here?
Both. And what I mean by that is this. If you remember, we talked about that $5 million more that we'll be getting from our local effort. Those dollars can be utilized to provide curricula, provide resources for teachers and students, provide all those other things that we can't afford to pay for at this time. But also we have buildings where we have students that are working, that are learning in 21st century buildings. Right now, many of our buildings don't support 21st century learning with computers and so forth because you only have a certain amount of plugs in certain places, wireless access and things of that nature. So we'll be able to get our buildings up to standard. And the second component with our buildings, you want to look at in terms of lighting. Look at in terms of air conditioning, the quality of a building that we have. All those things play a critical role in how people learn. Because if you're in an old building, you're more prone for illness. And so therefore students are missing schools, teachers are missing schools, and it has a direct effect on education. So if we can have better facilities, that's going to is going to provide a better quality of life for both teacher and students, thus improving our education as well.
So I got to look at this plan. I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week. And it's been said by lots of people that why is it taking so long for us to see what the plan is? And what's your response to that? Why so long before there was this plan in black and white that people could take and assess and make their own decisions about?
Absolutely. Well, we've been working really hard for the last few months, almost a year, trying to put together a plan. But there were several things that had to happen first. We've learned some things from other parishes that went out to the public and asked for things. One of which is we wanted to do a demographic study so that we understood exactly where the growth was and lack of growth in the parish itself. The other component of it was to be able to do a facility assessment, and that took several months to complete because we had to be able to assess each facility. During the course of those two things, those outside assessors were able to tell us how much growth we had in terms of demographic or lack thereof and where the growth was within the parish. We know that there's growth in the southern part of the parish, the Kington, Sunset, Grand Coteau area, and also in Lawtell and surprisingly Palmetto area. There's growth in the parish. And then there's some places where we're not losing any students, but we're not growing significantly. So when we look at those things, it has an impact on how the plan can be played out in terms of where do you build, where do you don't build, what is your plans going to look like. The other thing is to determine what type of facilities do we have. Are they worth keeping? Are they worth, is it going to cost us more money to go ahead and build a new building or and tear down the existing building? Or is it worth renovating that building because you can get more bang for your buck? So all of those things took a significant period of time. And so that helped us in our decision-making process to do this. We're not trying to hide anything from the public. In fact, we want to be as transparent as possible. We provided a facility assessment online. We provided a demographic assessment online. We have thousands of pictures. And so everything that we have in terms of the plan and everything else is all posted on our website.
Okay. Let's talk about jobs.
Yes.
There's, in the plan, there are some consolidations, closures, new schools being built. That equates to jobs in this parish, in this system. How many people are losing their jobs?
No one. No one's losing their jobs. I'll say it one more time. No one's losing their jobs. Our plan is, and this is a phased approach, so we're not looking at immediately closing several schools. This is a phased approach in terms of this. But what I've made a guarantee to the board members as well as our staff members is that we want to, through attrition, we want to be able to look at how we're employing people. So as people retire or move out of the parish, then positions, if we have extras, then we won't maybe hire in those spots. Or for example, if we normally hire between 125 to 150 teachers at the beginning of the school year. Well, we may not have to hire all those people because we have a few extra employees that we have. So I'm committed and the board is committed to keeping every single person employed, and through attrition, we'll be able to reduce our force at that particular point.
Okay, so is it realistic that someone who is employed by this school district would think, I work in Eunice now, but is there a possibility that I'll be forced to move to Port Barry, totally away from the region where I have been?
Absolutely. Well, what we've said is that we're going to do everything in our power to employ you in the community that you're currently working in. However, if there's a need in the parish, then we may have to do something different. But I've made a commitment to, for example, those employees that are in Eunice, that they're going to be employed in Eunice. And we're going to stick to that commitment because it's important not only for them to be in that community, for the children that they're serving, but also for the community that they're serving. But again, there may be some instances as time goes on, 3 years from now or 2 years from now, where we have to make adjustments because if it is what's best for the district, then we may have to make those things. But for today, we're going to commit to people being in those communities currently employed.
And again, you say no one is losing their job.
No one is losing their jobs.
Okay. Any school that's immune, here's this grand plan and it lays out all these schools. Is there any school that's immune from this, let's call it a restructuring?
Yes.
Is there any school that will be left out and said, oh, we're going to leave this one alone, we'll work around you? Are all schools included in the plan?
We're looking at all. When you look at the plan that was posted on your website, as well as on ours, and as well as our Facebook page, we are not just arbitrarily. We want to be able to, we're looking at each school. So for example, I'm assuming you probably may be talking about Opelousas in particular, or maybe there are other cities or towns that are associated with this. But when we look at Opelousas, we want to be able to try to restructure so that we can provide a quality education for every single child. We want to be able to make sure there are resources in every single classroom. So in terms of immunity, we want to be able to ensure that when we looked at the buildings and facilities, that we were building facilities or consolidating so that we can get the best bang for our bucks, for our dollars, and also the best opportunities for our kids to learn in terms of resources and ensuring that we had all of those things we needed in those classrooms.
And this includes the better performing schools in the district, right?
Absolutely. We want to look at every school. We're not trying to leave anybody out. We're focusing on every single school.
A lot of attention has been paid. You know, we hear from lots of people.
Absolutely.
Whether it be through social media, emails, phone calls, people talk to us. And one of the things that keeps coming up is French immersion students. What's going to happen to them in this plan?
The French immersion program will continue. French immersion currently is located at Park Vista Elementary School, and we're committed to continue French immersion. In fact, I would love to expand the French immersion program. Right now, only kindergarten through 6th grade students at Park Vista receive French immersion. Well, with our reconfigured plan, there may be more opportunities for more kids to participate because we have a K-3 school in the future, not next year, and then a 4-5 school and a 6-8 school. So that means there will be more opportunities for more kids to participate in French immersion, so we can actually expand that program rather than just have it at one site. So more kids will have opportunities to participate.
So your French immersion, your 4th and 5th graders that will now go to a new school,
yes,
will still be eligible for French immersion just at their new location.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's talk about cuts.
Yes.
What has the district done? You know, here we are asking people for essentially more money.
Yes.
In their property taxes. What has the district done to cut costs?
Yes.
To bring down expenses, to bring down dollar amounts, and where does that stand right now?
Well, when I first came in, we were projected to have about approximately a $1.5 million deficit when I first came in as superintendent. One of the first things that I had an opportunity to do was talk to our finance director, and so that we went through line by line items to identify what could we do without and what can we reduce and still run efficiently. Well, through a little bit of luck and a lot of cutting, we were able to have a balance of $2.5 million profit last year. So we were able to turn the ship last year. And then we started looking at in terms of transportation and operational costs, looking at people and how we're utilizing them. So for example, with transportation, by rerouting and changing the routes within St. Landry Parish and how we normally did business, we were able to save $60,000 this school year. And that's with the same drivers that we had. We didn't even reduce buses, but we were able to save dollars on transportation. The same thing with programs. We want to be able to look, if these programs are effective, we want to continue to do it. But if not, we're going to stop utilizing it. Look at how we're spending our money on resources, and are we getting the best out of them? And every contract that we have, looking at them and seeing if it's best. So that's how we were able to change things and be able to gain money back to the parish be good stewards of the dollars that we have. So we want to be good stewards of every single dollar. I want to treat it just like it's my own. And so therefore, the public will not have any issues with the dollars that they're giving us. We're going to be good stewards. I can assure them of that.
When did you start?
I started officially November 5th of 16.
Okay. And you know, it has been said that, speaking of cuts, there are people who believe that this district is too central office heavy. Your response to that?
Well, I've heard that as well. But I can assure you, we are a medium-sized school district. You know, on average in Louisiana, majority of our school districts are between 6,000 and down. And then you have the super big ones of 30,000 and up, and maybe a couple 20s, and then everybody in between 10 to 20,000. So we're in the middle, and there's not many of us. But when you compare school districts that are our size, we're actually probably smaller in terms of staff. We are very streamlined, and as people have retired over the last few months that I've been superintendent, if we needed to replace the position, we did. In many cases, we have not. We've done without. So we're getting leaner and working with what we have, but we're definitely not overstaffed. We could probably use a few more people, to be honest with you, but we're definitely not overstaffed. We're working very lean with the people that we have.
Where do those salaries fall in place of the people here in the central office?
Salaries specifically?
And I'm not asking for a breakdown of salary,
Yes.
but it has also been said
Yes.
that within this central office, there are large salaries, people making too much money. And I'm sure somewhere along the way somebody's done some studying. I'm asking you, where does that fall? And the numbers that you just mentioned about
Yes.
in this state with the number of students, where we fall.
Yes.
What about central office salaries?
Our salaries for supervisors or directors are comparable to Lafayette or Baton Rouge, and probably in many cases they're less than. So give you an example. I'll use administrator. I won't name any names, but administrator. That particular person left St. Landry Parish as a principal, went to a neighboring parish, and they were able to earn a $15,000 raise. So there's a big difference there. And the same thing when you look at office staff or central office staff, supervisors and directors. When you compare Lafayette or Baton Rouge central office staff, we're either comparable or less than, in most cases, less than in terms of salaries and dollars.
What's the number of students in this district?
Today we have 13,625 students.
Okay, so this plan includes consolidation and closures of some schools eventually.
Eventually.
Is that the plan regardless of whether these propositions pass on Saturday?
Depends on the community, because some communities are dependent upon the facilities. Okay. In Opelousas, it's not dependent upon the facilities because it still could be implemented with old facilities or new facilities, and we prefer them to be new facilities. There are some communities that they have to have a building, so we don't get an opportunity to build new buildings. They're going to have to continue to educate children in the buildings that we currently have. So it depends on the community where in which they will be learning.
Okay. Something that's come up that there are 3 schools, I don't have them named, but there are 3 schools that are getting 2/3 of the $99 million.
Right now, we have the following schools that we're going to receive dollars, and
of the 99 million.
Of the 99 million, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, so I'm going off of memory. But in Opelousas, for example, Opelousas, there are going to be major renovations to at least 4 facilities here, and to the tune of approximately $6 million for each facility. In the Port Barre area, we're going to be spending approximately $28 million for a new 5 through 12 school and perhaps a K-12 school there. Depends on how the dollars that are remaining once that happens there. In the North Central community, we're budgeting approximately $10 million to build a new school on the North Central wing campus there, but there's a new elementary school there that'll be on that campus. In the Northwest zone, we're building a new school for Lawtell Elementary School. Lawtell Elementary School is approximately $30 million that we budgeted, but that's a brand new school there. And then in the Beauchamp zone, we're looking at a new junior high, 7th and 8th grade junior high, and that'll be approximately $10 million there. I'm trying to think if I missed any area, but it's approximately 10 areas that we're looking at, 10 facilities that we're looking at building or major renovations. And in Eunice, we'll be building a new school in Eunice, a new elementary school that would house approximately 600 to 700 students and approximately $17 million. Now, all of those dollars, you'll say, well, that exceeds the $99 million. Well, when we did our planning, we want to be able to have the highest cost associated with this so that we know that what it's going to cost. But we feel that we can work those numbers down closer to where we are, to the 99 million. But we want, when the assessor facility assessment was done, we wanted to work with the highest number possible rather than with the lowest number, because of course you know that things change in the world, such as with tariffs on steel and aluminum, so it can have an effect on how we purchase things for buildings.
A question that was asked to us, people have asked, how do you propose a property tax when you don't live here?
I do live here. I have a home here. I purchased a home here when I became employed in St. Landry Parish. So I have a home, I pay taxes here, and I've been here since I purchased my home, and I've been here for a while. I grew up here. My dad has land here, and so I'm very much invested in this community as well.
So what are some things, I'll give you an opportunity, my job is to ask questions, but I'll give you an opportunity to talk about some things that you've heard or that you've been hearing that you believe are false.
Yes.
What do you clear up at this point?
Well, I think the misinformation is one thing that has been mischaracterized is that people's taxes will go up 100% or 114%. That's just not true. And you can call the tax assessor, Mr. Duplessis, if you don't believe me, and he can clarify for you himself. But we have a tax calculator on our website. You can put in what is the value, assessed value of your home, and when you put that in there, it's going to give you specifically how much more you'll be paying above your current assessed value of your home. So depending on where you live, the assessed value could be as low as 20-something% and as high as probably 50 or 60-something%. So it just depends on what part of the parish that you live in, but at no point will your assessed value of your home be 100% of your total assessed value.
You've been accused, I'm sure you're aware, but you've been accused of changing your story depending on the audience you were speaking to. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that?
Well, that incident in particular that you're referring to was in Port Barre in particular. In the Port Barre community, I had several forums that we've conducted. We conducted several forums throughout the parish talking about our plan and our vision for St. Landry Parish. Mm-hmm. We talked about the North Central plan, and there was 3 proposals that were there. However, the community in North Central was adamantly against one of the plans. So we scrapped that plan. So when I went to the Port Barre community, I only spoke of 2 rather than 3. But once I was asked to give the 3rd plan, I complied, and I was able to give the plan as presented at the North Central community. So no, I don't change. Pretty much, I probably can do the script in my sleep at this particular point. But no, I've given the facts to each community as they are. In fact, the whole script that I've given to the community is on our website for everyone to see, so there's no deviation from it. The same thing that's on the website is the same plan that was given to each community at each community forum.
You mentioned North Central, and I have some other questions, but you mentioned North Central. Is that school closing, or are you keeping it open in the plan?
North Central High School. North Central High School is staying open.
What about Washington Elementary? I know it's an operation pending enrollment and population.
When we went to the community and spoke to the constituents in that community, mm-hmm. when we had a community meeting for those that showed up there, mm-hmm. we indicated to them that because their enrollment is very low right now, they K through, not using pre-K, K through 8th grade is approximately 128 students. We indicated to them and to those members in the community that we have to be able to get the enrollment up in that community. There are 400, according to our demographer, there's 400 school-age students in that community. So therefore, we need to go out and be able to get those kids to come back to our community. And it's up to us to provide the resources and also provide a quality education for them to come. And I'm confident that the principal and the teachers there are going to provide a quality education for every student in that community. So that school is still open and will be open, but okay. They have to be able to increase enrollment, and academic performance has to increase, and that's what we indicated to them as well.
What's the deadline for that?
We don't have a deadline. I told them that we're not going to give a deadline, but we're going to look at it on a year-to-year basis, mm-hmm. so that we can evaluate it, and we're going to continue to go back and communicate with them annually, so that everyone knows where they stand in that community.
Is it cost effective to keep a school with only 128 students open?
No, but what we're doing so that we can use that building properly, we're looking at other programs that we can put over there, expanding, in some cases, our Career and Technical Education Center is bursting at the seams there. So we may move some programs over there that are able to be moved. So where it's not going to interfere with little kids or the younger kids, but put them in the back of the building so that they can still utilize the facilities and then not, again, interfere with anything that's going on in the front of the school.
Because as a parent, I will
yes.
tell you, when you said that, the first thing I thought was
yes.
my kindergartner on the same campus as these adults.
Yes.
How is that safe?
Yes.
I mean,
well, we have some older. So, for example, I'll use North Central High School as an example. Mm-hmm. They were 5 through 12. Now they're 6 through 12. I'll use Port Barre as an example. They're currently 5 through 12. So we have our younger kids with older kids, and we keep them separate from each other, and it works out fine. And we'll do the same thing there. We want to make sure that every child is safe. And we've done it in several of our schools, and we'll continue to do the same thing in MACA. MACA is one of our A schools, and it's also 7 through 12. So we have younger kids with older kids, and it works out fine with no problems.
Speaking of schools, I know right now most of the schools, elementary schools specifically in this parish, the campuses are pretty much open.
Yes.
You enter from the outside. The grounds are open. In the new design of these new schools,
Yes.
Was that taken into consideration?
Well, we don't have any designs just yet.
Okay.
However, when we speak to architects and people that do designs of these, safety is definitely a priority number one. When I was director of operation in my previous position, we designed buildings where we had a containment area, so that when people walked into the office area or a particular area, they walked in, they checked in, but they couldn't go beyond that area. They had to be buzzed in to get to the other part of the campus. So we want to be able to do the same thing there. We want to have containment areas. We want to have additional cameras for safety. We want to have buildings, new building designs, my vision, so that kids will not have open areas where anyone from out of the communities can walk in and have access to them. So all of those things should be locked and secured, and so we want to make them as safe as we possibly can. There's even one thing that I was looking at, we was playing with a design where we would have almost like a containment area. So if you had a rectangular room, you would have classrooms that would only be one-sided, like OHS have classrooms across the hall from each other. Well, it would be one-sided, and then if there was an emergency, they can run into the containment area where there's no windows, only doors, and that's it. And so it would be a safer, hardened structure that we have there.
So I have to ask you, people have said that you have accused you of hiding and only speaking at these forums at different schools throughout the parish, talking about this plan, again, that there's something to hide.
Yes.
What's your response to the person who says the superintendent hasn't been vocal, he's only chosen, he's picked and decided where he wanted to talk about this, it hasn't been a widespread communicate as much as you can about your plan?
Absolutely.
Or this plan?
Well, one of which, obviously, we had the forums that we've gone. We've had each one in all of the communities. I have spoken to every single school in every community. I've spoken at churches. I've talked at Rotary clubs, chambers, Kiwanis, any organization that wanted me to go, I've spoken to them. Even there were some communities that were opposed to this. They invited me. I showed up. I'm not going to call any names. But if I have been available, I've talked to anyone that will listen to me regarding this plan. We've had board retreats that are open to the public to be able to communicate with them as well. So I'm not hiding. I have nowhere to run to. I believe in what we need to, in what we have in front of us, and that's to educate children. There's nothing to hide from that. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe that if we do the right thing by our children and our faculty and staff, it's going to make St. Landry Parish as a whole better. It's just, when we look at education, we look at economics, they go hand in hand. And as we improve our educational footprint in St. Landry Parish, people are going to be wanting to come and be a part of this. Everyone wants to be a part of a winner. And so I invite those people. I'm here. I'm not running. I'm in the community. I've talked to anyone that's willing to talk.
So the person who can't get to you, who can't knock on the door and make an appointment and come in and sit in your office like we have, what do you say to the voter who has not early voted, because that's over,
Absolutely.
to the person who's going to the poll on Saturday, and today's Monday,
Yes.
and they are hearing this way and hearing that the other way? What do you say to that person? What do you want them to know, whether they vote yes or no when they get into that booth? What do you want them to know about this plan, and what it's going to do for this? What do you say to the person who's undecided and how they're going to vote?
Well, this is what I'll say. Marcella, over the next few days, St. Landry Parish has a choice to make. And it's not between two political positions. It's not between two groups. It's a choice between two very different plans for our parish. Those who say no and do not offer any solutions whatsoever, and they talk only about our past, and then they say that our students should not have better facilities, our teachers should not have raises. This approach hasn't helped St. Landry Parish at all. I believe that the way to build a great education in St. Landry Parish school system is by improving our facilities, by providing quality instruction resources and technology, by providing raises for all employees in St. Landry Parish. So that means that everyone has to contribute to this. And when you contribute and invest in education, you invest in our communities, you invest in our economy. So that's what I believe. And so sometimes politics can be so small, but the choice here is so much bigger. The choice here is so much bigger. Either we can build our future, well, either we can wait for our future or we can build it. I choose to build it. And so we want to be able, everyone to be able to support us, because as Martin Luther King said once, sometimes you have to step out on faith. Sometimes you don't see the whole stairway, but you have to step out on faith.
Is there anything that I did not ask about the plan, about the status of the school district as is versus what it will be if these pass? Is there anything that I did not ask you that you would like to address?
Well, you know, one thing that I'd like to address is that the past has been talked about extensively, but I want us to be able to look at where we are today and where we can be tomorrow into the future. It's so important. Most people of St. Landry Parish will not directly benefit, but their children and their grandchildren will benefit. We're making a decision for our future, and that's why I'm promoting this, and that's why it's so important. You know, as I've said before, our facilities are old. Our teachers don't have competitive pay, and many of our employees are making salaries below a standard level of living. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that we get these people back and employed and engaged in our community. But more importantly, providing the quality instructional materials, providing resources, providing new technology. Those things are important. So we want people to be able to go into our schools. If you're on the fence today, go to your local school. And I want you to look at those facilities, talk to your teachers, and see what I see. And if you're not able to get there, go to our website and be able to look at the pictures that we provided for you to see what those facilities look like. And we want to improve St. Landry Parish, and this is what these two propositions will do.